Awesome. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are. This is the Revaluate Coaching Lab, and today we're doing something a little different. We have some really close friends from Wise Agent joining us, and we're going to talk about some back to basics and hopefully answer some questions you guys might have on Revaluate and also Wise Agent, and we can tackle it. So today I have with me Eleni Sommerschield. Did I say your name correctly?
You said my first name right, Eleni Sommerschield. I know.
Okay.
Last name. I have a hard first name and last name. It's like double whammy.
It's cool though. And then you are the chief operating officer of Wise Agent,
Yes.
which
Yes.
means everything. You do
Yeah.
everything. Cool.
Well, I do quite a bit, yeah. But it's okay. I
Yeah.
love what I do.
Yeah. Perfect. And I guess today we kind of wanted to bring you on because I think we have an opportunity at Wise Agent to really help a lot of people, a lot of agents. And we talked before this webinar about what kind of things we want to bring up to these agents, the opportunities, and what it really means to use Revaluate. So I think um, just kind of ask you to jump in and take the ball on the basics of how this would work in Wise Agent.
Yeah.
And I know you have some things planned to share with us, and I'll ask you questions, and
Yeah.
we'll go from there.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. I mean, I think when you say, going back to basics, I think this is like one of the key elements in real estate. And in particular, using a CRM, which for those of you that are not familiar with what CRM stands for Contact Relationship Management. And that really is just a system, a database of your book of business, whatever it is that you want to call it. Don't call it an address book because it was a little bit more powerful than just an address book. But I guess it in its simplest form is that. And within the CRM, I mean, I always say this, the R is the most important letter in that acronym, is that relationship. So building relationships with your clients, your potential clients, is your prospects, is really an important way of doing business. When someone's buying possibly the largest assets they will ever own with you and through you, this is not something to just take really lightly. And I know a lot of agents that really do take this seriously and understand the severity of that. And so when you're building the relationship, when you're kind of cultivating that, really a key element is keeping track of everything that happens, all of your notes, all of the things that they like to do, right? All of their interests, their hobbies, where they work, what they do for a living. All of that is, key elements of that relationship. And that's when somebody's like an established kind of client of yours. And then there's the prospects, right? In this industry, you can acquire leads, right? You can get leads from
Yep.
your website, from running ads on Facebook and social media, Google and whatnot. You can go to the portals and pay for leads from there. And these are kind of like these unknown prospects. Like you don't know anything about them. They may or may not even know something about you, which is always kind of a daunting thing, right? So you're just talking to like just anybody
Yeah.
USA, right? So that can be a daunting thing. Like, how do I now connect with this person? What I love about Revaluate is that when you're using our softwares together, right? When you're using Wise Agent and Revaluate together, you can kind of start painting a picture of what this prospect looks like.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that's kind of a key element of it, right? You can't just like, I can't just meet you, Alejandro, and just be like, no, everything about you. Like, I just won't, I have to dig right deeper in getting things
Yep.
from you. And when you're somebody brand new to me and I've never met you, you've never met me, you're not just going to come out and say like, well, and here's my bank account statement, right?
Right.
Like that's not day one
We kind
discussion.
of we call it like building a profile when we talk about it, but it's kind of the
Yeah.
same thing. Like we help build a profile for all your customers. I mean, you're gonna talk to all of them anyway at some point, but with Revaluate tying into all the different features that Wise Agent provides, I think you just want to build that relationship. That's the key here. It's building
Yeah.
relationships.
Yeah, I mean it is really about that. I mean the days of like doing one transaction and then never doing it again should be behind us. Unfortunately, statistics show that that is not the case. There are still many, many, consumers that have gone through a transaction with, through a property with an agent, and then they've gone through like the second transaction, and they used a different agent, right?
Yeah,
And that happens way too frequently, somewhere about 80 some percent, right? That's just way too many times. You're putting in a lot of efforts to meet this person. Sometimes you're putting in money, right? You're buying these leads through
exactly.
ads or through the portals or whatnot. You're putting in a lot of effort to go through this transaction to just like kind of let them fall by the wayside.
Yeah, I tell agents similar to that all the time where, you don't want these people to, and then guess I'm talking about a lead right now, but you don't want them to just go to work and talk to their friend at work or family because everyone knows an agent. I mean, we say it all the time, we joke about it all the time, but the fact is that unless we're able to stay in front of these people, build relationships, they go in the next morning, they have a reason to move. The first person they talk to is probably going to recommend them an agent. And that's a real, I fear, I guess, to our industry right now.
Yeah. I mean, and when you have a relationship with somebody where you feel like you're heard, you feel like you could trust them, you feel like you are, and I'm talking about from the consumer standpoint, right? The
Right.
consumer can feel that the agent is listening to them, that the agent is, trustworthy, and they like them, and they've built this rapport, and they have this, you know, you don't, that takes some time to do.
Yeah.
And then if you just, okay, now I've gone through the transaction and then I'm never going to talk to them again,
Yeah.
my mind is blown with that, because I'm like, here's the thing, people, is that you have this great relationship here with this person. You're like, gosh, I had fun time showing them houses, and we were like, let's go out for wine afterwards. I see you guys
Right.
at those wine bars, right? I know how it is. I go to these conferences too. And you're having a great time with your clients. And then what you don't realize though is that they may or may not buy from you for several years, right? Could be
Hmm.
7 or more. I think the average is about 7. But they could have, an adult child, or a child that's like an 18-year-old child that, in 5, 6 years is going to be buying a home or a condo or moving or something, right? It could be another family member, it could be a friend, it could be a neighbor. Like you sold their house, and now the neighbor is like, hey, wait a second, that looks like it went pretty quickly. Like, I want to talk to that person.
Yeah.
Right? You're
No,
missing out on those opportunities when you don't continue the relationship.
yeah, I'm getting excited because some of the stuff that I want to talk about in a little bit is going to address that. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like we have all these terms internally. I call it the CRM graveyard. It's like we meet somebody, we spend all this effort to create a relationship for them. Whatever happened, they came to you as an agent, you sold them a house, and then you stop talking to them. And then they go into your CRM and they sit there forever, or they go into a post-it, or they go into a
Yeah.
whatever it is that you currently store your leads, and you never reach out to them again. And I think that's an untapped potential for continuous revenue. I made that up right now. But
Yeah.
it's one of the things that I think we do best. And once we get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of it, I'll try
Yeah.
to address it again. But it is a place where you can cultivate those leads that have been sitting there for a while, bring them back to life, and just continue to sell to those people. It's an untapped potential for these agents.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a lot of times what happens is we run out of steam, or we're like, oh, okay, they said not right now. And
Yeah.
then we don't have a system in place to remind us, like not right now, but maybe in like 18 months. Because, right, sometimes it takes a while, like, oh, I need to repair, like your credit sucks, you can't get a loan.
Yeah.
You need to repair your credit, whatever the case is, right? A family emergency came up. So that's where the CRM comes into play, where you can set the reminders, you can set all those things up to say, like, I need to follow up, I need to be reaching out to this person, and putting everything. So every time you look at somebody in your database, in your CRM, there's a whole entire picture of your relationship and who this person is. Um, right there in front of you. You can see everything. And so that's a really important thing. And then marry that with Revaluate, what you all are doing, where there's then this other potential insider kind of information that you
Right.
get. Then now that becomes something even more, right? Even more
Yeah.
interesting.
And without revealing everything we're going to talk about in the next couple of minutes and the slides, I mean, what we do best is find those people that are most interesting, especially if you've built a relationship before. If you're monitoring them in a way that you can just call them up and say, "Hey, want to grab a cup of coffee?" That leads to a transaction in most cases when you do it at the right time, and that's what we hope to do for anyone in Wise Agent that's using us.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, it's timing.
Yeah,
Timing is everything. And it's also, being able to, segment your audience so who's fitting into what category of potential, as a potential client, and then being there and sending the right message at the right time and knowing that timing is really key.
Lenny, we had a quick question. I don't know if you want
Yeah.
to address it later or now, but Christina was asking if there's a drip campaign that combines Revaluate and Wise Agent. Is that built out, or do you want to wait a little bit and answer that later?
Yeah, no, we can talk about that. So, I love drip campaigns and I love automation in the CRM because we're all busy. Nobody's got time for anything, right? Like we just have
Yeah.
to get going. I don't like the whole thing of like set it and forget it. I'm not a set it and forget it person. You got to set it for sure and have the automation happen, but don't forget it. If you forget it, then that's kind of like the opposite effect of what you want. So we do have drip campaigns and we do have a way of being able to outreach. I'm going to share my screen here if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so this is like my way of talking with my hands is sharing my screen. So when you have, when you have your CRM, right? And so this is Wise Agent, being able to set up a drip campaign is something that's really important. Having something where there's some automation involved in there where you can just set up, and we have a bunch of stock programs here that you can use. And this is actually going to be expanded in the next couple of days, I think.
Nice.
The majority of our programs right now are in English. There's a handful that are in Spanish, and we're translating all of them now into Spanish. So that will be in here for everyone in the next few days. But you can set up your own, your own drip campaigns, customize it the way you fit, the way you see fit. But realistically, what it is it's just going in here and saying, I want to nurture this person. Your drip campaigns are it's a campaign of nurturing. Like you want to just kind of like subtly like, hey, I'm here for you. Hey, I'm here for you. Anytime you need me, this is, here's some information about me, and you're just nurturing them. It's not going to take place of building the relationship.
Correct.
It's about nurturing them. I mean, you will be in a way building the relationship because you're going to be telling them about you and what value you bring and everything else. But you can do things where you can set up this drip campaign where it would be sending out emails, where you can be sending out text messages. Oh, they changed it on me. I thought this was a text. Maybe it's this one, where I can have, here it is, where I can have a text message go out. I can include a video, I can include an image, whatever it is. So these are really important things to be able to drip and touch your prospects, but also your clients at the same time, right? And you can have multiple drips happening simultaneously. So it doesn't have to be just one thing happening at
And
one given time.
and I'll be asking some questions too, because to be fair, I have very little experience with Wise Agent. Is there a way that I would be able to trigger some of these based on like the reevaluate score? I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, so we haven't embarked on that just quite yet, but that is something I know we've been in conversations that I travel a lot, almost as much as Chris. He travels, I'm like, yeah, I see you, Chris. I see him
Yeah.
going out. Chris and I have been talking about it, and I think that's kind of like next steps for us going down that path. But there are triggers within our checklist, within our transaction checklist, which is really important. Because this is the part what we were saying before, that 80% that don't ever get that second transaction.
Yeah.
This is where that will help, close that. That's a huge gap, 80%, right? But like hopefully
Huge.
bring it down some, where what you could do is after you go through a transaction, let's say you have a buyer's transaction, you can set up triggers to be able to put people on a drip campaign after the closing. So after the closing happens, then you can say, when I, do the final walkthrough, or when I do whatever it is, or once I've given them the housewarming gift, I want to also put in a trigger where I'm going to put them on a drip campaign, where it's going to be like a long-term drip campaign, to make sure that they're going to be getting something from me.
Nice.
So you
And
can have something like, yeah.
this looks pretty easy, and this looks pretty exciting. I mean, if I was looking at that, that gives
Yeah.
me a lot of options to really work with. Even having things after the transaction, that's huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is like this, you set up your home sale anniversary follow-up, you put in some things in here, like 6 months have passed and you want to say like, hey, so you've been in your home for 6 months now. Hope everything is going well. If you need any resources, you need a HVAC person, you need a landscaper, you need a plumber, electrician, whatever it
Nice.
is,
Value
I'm your
adds.
person. Come to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, agents aren't doing that enough. They're not doing that follow-up. Like, be the resource, because once you're that resource, then they come to rely on you. And it's like, well, my hot water tank went out. Who do I call? Well, I got to call my agent to see who I need to,
Yeah.
who's the best plumber to get or whatever.
Yeah. I
Right.
mean, that is such a good advice. I mean, we call them value adds when I talk about it, because I think agents go through this process where they have a list of vendors and they don't understand how powerful a list of vendors could be to converting a lead or starting a conversation, especially when you combine that with Revaluate, where we're trying to identify a future mover of sorts. And then you have this quick conversation and you realize they're not ready, but you have to be listening, because they're probably going to tell you either remodeling a bathroom or they need to fix a fence, or like you mentioned, they're trying to fix their credit. If we have a list of all these people that can help with that, now you stay in their mind. You stay with them, just like branding, just like a drip campaign. All we're doing is nurturing that relationship, and having the list of vendors ready to go is huge.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, and it's about being the person that they call. Like, you have to show that value. I mean, if you just keep calling, if I just keep calling you and saying like, hey, do you want to buy or sell a house? Do you want to buy or sell a house? I'm not
Nope.
adding any value. You're going to be like, she's a spammer. She doesn't know me. She doesn't understand what I'm going. Like, like, no, I'm not interested right now. Like, I've got this situation happening here. So, where that becomes, something that, you don't want to be that person that's just like spamming people.
For sure.
Um, and I don't know how many times I get this question, but it's always like, oh, I have all these people in my database and a lot of them I've like stopped talking to for whatever reason, we lost touch. Like, how do I reconnect with them? And I'm always like, just be a human. Like, just be a human,
Exactly.
right? And reach out and say like, I don't know what happened. Life took over and like, here we are 5 years later, 7 years later, and we haven't talked. I'm just reaching out. But then here's the beauty of it, is now put in the revaluate and say like, hey, who is it that I haven't talked to? Like, who has this score that I haven't talked to in a while, that I probably, because maybe I have a database of like 5,000 people and maybe 2,500 of them I haven't talked to,
Yeah.
but I go through and I put them through Revaluate. And now I get like 50 people, right? Or maybe 20 people that have a score of like 80 or more. Well, I'm going to go with the 20, because I'm going to look at 2,500 and be like, I can't call those people. I can't do
No.
that. Right. But I can call 20 people in a week or two. No problem.
That was
Right.
such a great segue. Being human is something that I preach. I mean, and it comes really it goes in hand with what we do. I'm going to share my screen now. I have a couple of slides just to, and I want to go back to basics for those that are watching, to in case they remember what we kind of do but aren't sure, and how we can help with that. You say that 5,000 contact database that you use as an example. You can't keep up with all those people. I mean, it's pretty hard to do. You can try, and you can hire ISAs, you can hire VAs, but if you want to do it yourself and you have limited funds, let's try something different. So I'm gonna, and the being human thing, I really want to go back to that, because I think
Yeah.
that is critical to this process. So in a nutshell, it's just the simplest way to explain what we do for people that turn on our service in Wise Agent is we want to take those 5,000 contacts and we want to really segment them into the ones that are most likely to move. And that is our entire mission, our goal. So when you look at 5,000 and you see, okay, here's 300 that are ready to go based on the life event score, those are the ones that I'm going to obsess over. Those are the ones that I'm going to put all my effort, work, money, resources into trying to rekindle that relationship, especially if I sold them a house 7 months ago, or sorry, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's really in a nutshell what we do. Now there's ways we do that, obviously, and I'll jump into the next slide, but being human again, I want you to keep that in mind here. And one of the philosophies that we have is that it's a catchphrase, obviously, people move, houses don't. So we focus on the person. And specifically, we focus on the email address that you have for each of those contacts at Wise Agent. We monitor those and we look for essentially what we call life events. We call them data Ds sometimes, but everyone knows what these are: diapers, diamonds, death, divorce. These are the events that happen in people's lives that lead to a move. Now, if you had 5,000 people in your database, most likely not all of them are going to have a life event, but those 100 or so that are having it, that we identify, now you can focus on those. You can use those drips you shared. You have that list of vendors, because when you call these people or when you email them and they start a conversation, you're going to hear things of what they're going through. And you need to be human about it, because they're going to be dealing with a death, or they're going to be dealing with a future baby, or their kids are moving across the country, all these different things that are happening. And the best thing you can do is to relate and empathize with them first. Rekindle that relationship, invite them for coffee, let them talk to you. That's really the goal that we have. We want to do for the Wise Agent customers that are turning this on. And then you take over. The agents will know what to do after that. You don't need anything else. So,
Well, and I would say, I would add to that and say, look at your notes, look at your past notes and like your interactions with this, previous client of yours, and see like what's in there, what's in their contact notes, right? Is it that when 7 years ago when they bought that house, like they had, like I said, like an 18-year-old child at home, 17-year-old child at home, and now it's 7 years later, and that child is now a full-fledged adult, probably out of college, probably starting, whatever it is. Or is it somebody, someone maybe older and they were buying their last forever home, a condo of some sort, or, or doing something. And then you're like, ooh, I wonder if this person passed away or something. You want to be sensitive to that. So you want to take it where it's like, let me get a good idea of what could be happening. Or is it somebody kind of like in their 30s and you're like, oh, they'd had a long term, like,
yeah.
boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. Maybe they're getting engaged, maybe they're having a baby, whatever that might be. But it's be there and say like, gosh, I don't know what happened. Time has flown. I'd love to just hear what has been going on in your life. Here's what's been happening in my life in the last 7 years. And then you offer your life in a short span, right? For seven, concise, right? Short and concise. In the last 7 years, what have you been doing? Like, did you get more designations? Did you do this? Did you do that? Whatever it is, was there something significant in your life that has happened? Something. And so share it with them, and then, offer. And I love that you said, like, offer to like get together for a cup of coffee, because that's when someone's going to say like, well, let me tell you this joyous thing that's happening, or let me tell you the
The negative.
sorrows that have been happening.
I don't know how many deals have been completed for agents over a cup of coffee, but there's probably a humongous amount.
Yeah.
And you pointed something out that I forgot to mention. Thank you, Eleni, because the notes are very critical. Even when you have a conversation and they tell you not now, 12 months, they say never, whatever it is, write that down, but also listen to everything else that's going on. Reevaluate actually, and this is what I forgot to mention. We do a score of 0 to 100, just going back to that basic part. Anything above an 80, for everyone listening, is what we consider a very likely mover. So those are the gums that are most likely to list their home in the next 6 months, or most likely to do some sort of movement or change of scenery. But if you have notes that you've taken in your CRM that can tell you all the things that Eleni just pointed out, you can start to extrapolate and put together that profile we talked about. You're right. Their kid was very young 7 years ago. Maybe he was 15 or 16, or maybe he was 18. You can start putting together the case. Or maybe they were an older couple. I mean, whatever it is, arm yourself with that information. The score is just a trigger. So you guys know who to spend your effort and time on. But those are the ones that are going to be the best to convert. I think I have one more slide. I don't actually. And I can bring this up again later. But yeah, the general idea is to divide that database up. We're also going to associate some people that are more in the nurture bucket. We can talk about that more, but we give them a score of 40 to 80. Personally, I think we should nurture everybody, regardless of where they are in their life. We
Yeah.
should also be calling or texting or emailing as many as we can. And you said something as well. Set it and forget it is not the right mentality. I think you want to set it, but I think we also need to have a concept in mind of our speed to relationship or speed to response. You don't want to send out an email over the weekend if you're not going to respond back when that customer reaches out to you. You
Yeah.
can't wait 2 to 3 days to respond to them. So I'm pretty sure Wise Agent can probably set you up in a way where you can make sure you
Yeah.
don't miss those. But
Yeah.
you're laughing, so I think you want to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't send out a mass text message and be like, well, I'm gonna go now to I'm gonna take my kids and we're going to the playground for for a play date for 3.5 hours with their friends and lunch and and I'm gonna be busy with my kids and I'm gonna leave my phone in the car. Like, don't do that. Text messages have such a strong response rate. I think it's somewhere around 80% within the first
Yeah.
15 minutes. So, and then send out messages that you can actually respond to. So don't send out like 1,000 text messages if you can't
Exactly.
reply to 80% of those people, within 30, 40, minutes or an hour. Like, do make it make sense for you? Like, if you have a large team, kudos, go for it, right? But yeah, don't be like a solo agent that has littles around you and you're like, well, now I can't, or some other situation where you're like, I can't, I'm gonna get on this plane and be on a flight for 4 hours. Like, how am
Yeah.
I gonna help you now? That's not gonna be helpful.
Unrelated but related. I also want to point out that this works for any database size. Like we talk about 5,000, but I mean, I could have 1,000 contacts in a database. One transaction that I get from Revaluate will pay for pretty much everything that you need for the rest of the year, I think. But if someone is looking at numbers and movability, I mean, you're looking at somewhere, even if you have 20 people that are showing up as a very likely mover, to Lenny's point, those people you can manage. If you have 100 people, don't send 100 text messages.
Right.
Make a plan, trickle them down, work out something. I like to look at a contact. And if I have 5 people that are very likely movers, but I have one that was a past deal and I have one that's a new lead that I've never talked to before, I'm going to rank the past deal probably a little higher because I might be able to start a relationship faster. The new deal, maybe they are the ones that, depending on what my goal is for that day, but look at a contact. And if there's something there, if you have in your notes that you have some sort of connection that you can talk to, I think that's worth more than a deal that's been sitting in your CRM for 5, 6 years and you don't have any notes. So
Yeah.
think about that as well. It's not just the very likely mover, it's the relationship you had before. It's anything you can leverage to get that conversation started.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because as agents, some I get people that kind of boast about how many people they have on their phone or in their database, and it's like, that's fantastic. You don't get paid for the number of contacts that you have. You get paid each time you get to the transaction table, right? Once you're done with that. And
yeah,
so it's great to have a good pool of people to like have, but really being able to dive deep into it. So I always say, like, it's okay to just have a little bit of a niche and be a little more narrow on what you're looking for. I want to share my screen one more time because I want to show how the integration works here.
yeah,
Um,
please.
and so from within Wise Agent, look at there's so much. We've been building this platform out for 22 years now. There's a lot that goes into this. So I'm just showing like little bits and pieces of this. But what I want to show is, like, I can do a search and say, show me who has a Revaluate score. And I can choose what score range I'm looking for.
Nice.
Because these 0 to 49 people, that don't discount them. Don't be like,
Right.
oh, well, they only have a 47, so I'm not going to talk to them. Don't discount it. That means that it's like there's still something's happening. I don't know what, but something there. It's percolating there, right? And even the 50s to 74s, it's still, you need to still continue to reach out. Right? This is a demo account, so I have people in here from 75 to 100. But then if you're like, if you have in your database where you have like a large number from 0 to 49, and you're like, gosh, I can't reach out to these 800 people. That's okay. Let's be a little bit more methodical. And what you do is you use, and this is why I love technology, right? Is that there's that personal element to it, right? But then there's that technology that will show you what you should be doing to really hone in on your time and use your time wisely, right?
Yeah.
So when you come in here, you can see like William Holden has a 97, 77, 94, 97, whatever those are. So now instead of me feeling like, gosh, I got to call 800 people, I've got
Oh
a
yeah.
smaller pool of people. I've got 4 people, and I'm just going to send out a text message and say like, hey, I wanted to just reach out and see, do you guys have time? And I'm not going to make it sound, because this is not a group text, right? This is one-on-one text messages, but I'm sending it in a group like I'm sending it at one time to a group of people, but they all get it individually and respond to me individually. So I would
Perfect.
say hi, first name, and then would love to catch up. Yeah, and I can't type and talk at the same time. Would love to catch up with you next week. Do you have time for, coffee or lunch? Question mark, then it's just, and you could put some other pleasantries in there. You send that out. If you are into video, if you guys are comfortable with video works really well. You can go ahead and add a video in here as well. So just record, you don't have to pay for any services, even though we do integrate with like BombBomb and Dub. But you could just record a video on your phone and just record something like, hey, it's me, haven't talked to you in a while, want to catch up, would love to just have lunch with you and kind of see what's been going on in your life. Send out that video. They get to see you like, oh yeah, I remember her. And now they can reply back to you in the text. And now you start this conversation, right? And it's data driven, but very specific, where you can now start rekindling that relationship, like seeing what happened, what's made this score move, because one of those D's made that score move up higher.
100%.
Something's been moving that needle. And so get to what it is if you can't figure it out from your notes. So that's that is a huge part of this, this integration is not just about seeing like, cool, they got 97. Awesome. You almost got to 100. It's about that next step.
Yeah.
And drip campaigns are great for nurturing, but you got to pick up the phone, you got to text, you got to have some kind of a little bit more personalization there.
We got we got
too.
another question. I think
Yeah.
I'm going to read the question, and then I think I'm going to reword it my way. But
Okay.
Christina asked, what is the advantage of texting in Wise Agent versus my cell phone?
Yeah.
You want to tackle that one, then I'll give my 2
Yeah.
cents after.
Yeah. So when you're texting from Wise Agent, first and foremost, so if I were to do like, let's say these 4 people, I'd have to send out 4 text messages, right? I'd have to either, copy and paste or rewrite or whatever it is. I wouldn't make it personal because I wouldn't be able to, I'd have to change all the names each time I was sending it. So that's a big indicator. Now with 4
Definitely.
people, that's manageable, right? Like I could send
Yeah.
4. But when you're doing something else, like you're finding people, and maybe it's these 50 to 74 people, and I don't know if in this account we have anyone 50 to 74, but let's say, because usually this is like a bigger pool of people, so I'm going to just get rid of this so I can show you a bigger pool of people. And maybe those 50 to 74 people, you want to invite them to an open house. And maybe you've dug a little bit deeper and said, they also live in this neighborhood where you just happen to have this new listing, right? And there's 225 of them. Now that becomes a little bit less manageable in a text from your cell phone. So it's about that bulk texting. So the replies all go back to my cell phone, but they also come in here where then I can see the responses and whatnot.
Nice.
So that's where, and then in the drip campaigns, the texts are, they are timed, right? So they're on a drip. So you can't do, I wish, you can't do a time, like a scheduled text message out from your iPhone or your Android. I don't know about Android, but for sure not on iPhone.
I know we want to be human in this process. So I'm going to ask a question, but then I'm also going to have a lead up. Do you guys have text message templates?
Yes,
So
we
that's
do.
another advantage. I just, again, you want to be human to these people. You don't want to send something that's very generic sounding. So you always want to tweak it, but that's another advantage right there.
Yeah.
Um, can
So
I
you can
create
have
my
your
own templates?
Yep, you can create your own templates. So, Camilla created a video in here, so you can have your own texting library. So you can also leverage our integration with ChatGPT,
Nice.
where you can, where am I going? You can have it all stored in your content library. So if you're like, gosh, I want to have some texting in here, go ahead and use our writing assistant. This is powered by ChatGPT 4, so I can say, write a text message about an invitation to an open house. I'm going to cheat,
This is
so I don't have to
huge.
type anything,
Yeah.
or an invitation to lunch or whatever it is that you want. And now this is, this is where that power comes into play, right? Where you can have all these templates, you can have things already done for you. So if you're out and about and living your best life, and maybe you have an admin, you have somebody that can help you, you can just say like, hey, can you send this text message out to somebody for me? So that's how
Yeah.
that works.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to leverage, if you do it right, you can leverage the power of Wise Agent to do these things. There's obviously a moment in time where you might just have to use your phone if that makes the most sense at the current time. I don't want people to think they can't text from their phone because whatever you needs to do to get the deal done, that's what you're doing. But there's a lot of benefits. Just the notes themselves, having the history of the text message, you can go back to it. We talked about that a lot, but I mean, that right there, the ChatGPT thing, that's huge because if you don't feel confident in writing, you can just ask it to give you some ideas and then you tweak it to fit your voice. And that's also, I'm powerful. So
Well,
hopefully that
and
answers the question. Yeah,
yeah,
go.
yeah. I was just gonna say on the Chat GPT, we've already it's an integration, so you don't have to go to OpenAI. You don't have to,
Awesome.
if their servers are down, like their servers are overloaded because there's too many people going to that page. That was happening a lot.
Mhm.
We have a different way of getting in as we're integrated partners. So and it's free. It's free. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to have an OpenAI account. You don't have to do anything. You just have to have a Wise Agent account. And you can use that and leverage that for yourself.
We have one more question. Then while we're doing that, I'm going to share my screen with the QR code again. And
Yeah.
maybe if you have some time, we can talk about the promotion and the process to get
Yeah.
on. But Mao asked, what's the advantage of Wise Agent compared to something like Follow Up Boss, if you want to tackle that?
Yeah. So Wise Agent's been around for 22 years. We know this industry. We've seen a lot of things happen over those 22 years. And one thing at the core of everything that we do, one thing that's always been one of our biggest strengths is our customer support. So we do have 24/7 customer support. And that really is something that I always tell people, like, technology companies do not typically do that, right? Like they try calling Google or Facebook, right? Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So having someone that will do the support, have your back, right? So you've got an open house that's happening on Saturday morning, and you're like, oh my gosh, if I have to read one more page of chicken scratch from these buyers that are coming into this open house, like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to scream. I need to have this landing page, but I don't know how to set it up. You just contact our support and we'll help you through it. Right. So that's a huge thing. We're the most integrated CRM in the industry. I mean, we have over 200 integrated partners. And then I always tell people, I'm like, we use the CRM to run our business. So we use our own tool to do everything that we do to run our business. And so there's not anything in there that I'm asking any of our members to do that we don't do ourselves. Right. So that's a big thing. So, and I love, I mentioned that I travel quite a bit. And the reason why I travel so much is because I love hearing the kind of Not that I love hearing people's problems, but I love hearing some of the things. I love hearing some of the things that are plaguing our industry. So then I can come back here, talk to my dev team, and we can engineer something. We can engineer a solution to help through technology. People want to be, a little bit more present in their lives and not be so inundated in, attached to their computer and attached to doing work stuff, right, all day long. You want to have kind of more harmony in your life. So using automation within the CRM is a key to success.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about, if you have a couple more seconds,
Yeah.
next, like what do I do if I'm an agent? I want to sign up for both Revaluate and Wise Agent. I know we have the QR code there right in front for
Yeah.
everybody to scan, but it's also, is it wiseagent.com/revaluate? Is that?
Yeah. So if you guys aren't using either one of our platforms, you could just go to wiseagent.com/revaluate, and that will actually sign you up for Wise Agent and Revaluate simultaneously. So
Nice.
then you can put in your database, you'll have you'll be able to send your contacts over to Revaluate. We do go through an onboarding session. So every single person, it doesn't matter if you're going to be using Revaluate or not, but everyone that has a Wise Agent account, you will be going through an onboarding session. That means that you get a one-on-one appointment with someone from our team that will help you set up your profile, your email signature, getting in any of your leads, because you want that automation. That speed to lead matters,
Yeah.
especially when you've got money behind it, right? So we'll set that up for you. And then if you're you've signed up through wiseagent.com/revaluate, we'll also help you, set all that up, right? Oh, and we'll get your contacts in. You can't do anything in a CRM unless you've got contacts in there. So we'll
Exactly.
get all of that in there for you as well.
Awesome. So we'll probably put together an email after the event. We can send out, if I think of any other links or any has some stuff, we'll put together a link to sign up. But the QR code works. I think Katrina shared the link
Yeah.
inside the chat.
And I
There's
think
one more question there.
Yeah, there's one more question. If we're integrated with MLSs. So we do have some MLSs that we're integrated with to get your listings in. So it just depends. We do have, I don't know, a couple dozen in there. So it just really depends on which MLS, but we do have MLSs integrated there, and more will be coming throughout the year.
Awesome. Lenny, thank you for your time. This was
Yeah.
really cool. Hopefully
Thank
we can
you.
do it again. I love
Yes.
seeing the inside working of Wise Agent finally. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it looks super smooth and easy. So if I have a question on CRM and I saw that demo, I'd be excited to at least ask you more questions. So please use that link, at least ask some questions. And
Yeah.
obviously we'll be there to answer any of those. And
Yeah.
again, if there's anything else, you can also reach out to us directly and we can also connect you with Wise Agent. But
Yeah.
this is a tool that's going to get you guys organized, and it's going to get you hyper focused on the specific people that are going to be most likely to move. So
Yeah.
any last thoughts? And
I was just going to say, if anyone wants to connect with someone, with myself or someone from my team, just go ahead and send an email to help@wiseagent.com. We're more than happy to get you set up with a trial account. You do get a free 2-week trial. So we'll get all of that onboarding, everything else set up for you. So we're here for you if you need us.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, and everybody else, thank you for joining. And you guys, everyone, have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much. All right. Thanks,
Take care.
everyone. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.